I think we have Cheryl here. I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Ernestine Lyons, councilwoman here in the city of Harper Woods, and this is our community health forum. We will be getting started right at about 5 o'clock, and so as we wait for folks to filter in, this session will be recorded, and we will have a panel of experts join us. But in the meantime, feel free to socialize and welcome to the Harper Woods Community Health Forum.
Hello, I'm Janetta Tabron.
Hi, Janetta.
Hi. I'm trying to do two things, kill two birds with one stone. I'm cooking dinner and trying to be on here.
Okay. All right. And then also learning about, like, hopefully we'll learn about some nice cooking things too.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Cheryl. Nice to meet you. That is a fabulous office. I wish I had that
Yes,
desk.
but you should have seen it like 30 minutes ago. I'm in here tossing and throwing. I'm Cheryl Johnson-Rulak. I'm in Lisa A. Smith's Farm to Table session this spring.
Awesome.
Getting extra credit, but it's always repetition, and
For
that's how you
sure.
get it. So that's why I'm here. But I'm going to, well, you said my office looked good. I was going to stay off video because I'm moving around and shredding paper and all kinds of stuff. So if I'm not on video, I'm still here. I'm listening in.
Awesome. Nice to meet you. All right. Anybody else?
Well, I'm Lauren Church. I'm actually in the process of getting on my tennis shoes, take my dog for a walk while we chit chat. So
Awesome.
trying to be active and healthy, trying.
And succeeding. I swear we were doing the walk-in and all that fun stuff. So okay, I think we're going to go ahead and kick things off. So I am Ernestine Lyons. Hi, Lisa. Oh my gosh. And I am a councilwoman here in the city of Harper Woods. And I am very excited to introduce this topic, which has been something that a lot of folks have been interested in the city of Harper Woods, focusing on community health. So this is not only a focus on like community health, meaning like nutrition, eating, diet, exercise, but also we are going to talk about aspects of mental health. This has been a very trying year for all of us. And I know that some of us are celebrating the CDC's news that, if you're fully vaccinated, you do not have to, wear a mask, indoors now. I'm still gonna wear mine, but wearing a mask outdoors and, just we are not only, people who have survived, this pandemic, but we want to be able to thrive. And I know that personally, like I have a lot of health issues that run in the family. And I got to know Lisa Smith because, she teaches the Farm to Table course, and she is the author of the Plant-Based Foodie, and she has been offering these workshops and amazing sort of lectures that talk about like how to, just really, really take care of yourself and, she's that that wellness subject matter expert. Not only is she a serial entrepreneur, she's a nutritionist. She has an MBA and a bachelor's degree in psychology. So she understands the mental aspects of what makes us, eat the way we do. If we know we should, be disciplined and to work out, be fit, what is it that stops us and what are our limitations? And she's also executive director of the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. And, she also, I took her Farm to Table course and, she talked about plant-based nutrition. I am kind of vegan adjacent. I feel like sometimes every once in a while I'll throw in some sort of fish or something in there, but I try to stick to being plant-based for the most part. So without further ado, we are welcoming Lisa Smith. We'll also be joined by another panelist later in the lecture. And Lisa's going to share with us ways to, take better care of ourselves and, just kind of the down low on nutrition, health, and wellness. All right, so Lisa, I'm going to switch it over to you.
Hey, Ernestine, thank you so much for having me. And welcome everyone. It's good to see and meet you all. So Ernestine, kind of where would you like for me to start? I know you said we were going to do Q&A tonight, so.
Okay. Well, I just kind of wanted to, have maybe an overview of just basic things. I know that people have a lot of questions on what's the biggest difference between like, being vegan, keto, and, also vegetarian, and what's the best diet for folks based on, what they want to do. And another important question is like where to start.
Mhm. Okay, so first, again, as Ernestine mentioned, I teach whole food plant-based nutrition, guys. And essentially what that means is adopting a diet that's free of inflammatory food. So not only animal products, which includes poultry, fish, dairy, and meat, but also loads of what we call SOS, salt, oil, and sugar. And so we know probably in for the majority of our lifetimes, the present is now one of the most important times for us to be hyper focusing on our health, and the ability of our body to essentially create antibodies to protect us from pathogens in the environment. And so one of the ways that we can do that from the inside out is by ensuring that we're eliminating inflammatory foods. So those are things that are going to cause an adverse effect in your body and essentially suppress your immune system. And so we're looking at animal products, we're looking at dairy, we're looking at sugar, oil, and salt. So one of the things that's going to be really critical in understanding kind of the difference between a vegan diet and a plant-based diet is going to be that a vegan diet is just the absence of the animal products, whereas a more plant-based diet is an absence of the animal products in addition to the absence of processed foods, including processed vegan foods, and the absence of salt, sugar, and oils that are highly concentrated. Because you can totally get something that's labeled as vegan or labeled as plant-based and it can still be unhealthy. And so the way something is labeled is not just the key, but it's also what is that product made of? Are we eating things that are providing the body and the brain with nutrient dense micronutrients, i.e. vitamins and minerals, that are going to help your immune system protect you from pathogens? I know we've been hearing all in the media and everything all about how to protect yourself from the outside in, right? Wearing masks, sanitizing, staying 6 feet, things like that. But you also want to give your body the best shot at avoiding or recovering quickly from something. And you do that from the inside out. So eating plants every day is exceptionally important. Having a diet that's high in 30 grams of fiber more a day is important. Hydration is exceptionally important here, right? And then we know all of our regular things that we've always been told: your fruits, your vegetables, your movement really boosts your immune system. So all of those are going to lend to more of a plant-based diet, not just eliminating the animal products, but intentionally eating the plants, which are extremely medicinal.
Awesome, awesome. And, Lisa always teaches like, eat the rainbow and try new different, fruits and vegetables and things that are going to, just kind of switch up your diet. And so that kind of leads me to the second aspect, which is if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask those now. But if not, I'll move right along into one of the other questions. And yes, ladies, make sure that you get your questions asked. You can drop them in the chat or you can just, shout them out. But I wanted to also focus on something that Lisa said in one of her courses, which was kind of surprising for me to hear that, yes, you can be active and have a great diet, but the biggest thing that kind of keeps that longevity, and make sure that you're staying alive and you're thriving is the social connection. So, with this being Mental Health Awareness Month, Lisa, can you speak to like how social connections, like making sure that you have those, can really contribute to like better overall health?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we know from studying these areas in the world called the blue zones, which has the highest concentration of the longest living people, the largest amount of centenarians, and people who not only live a long time, but live a long time actively functioning, having a high quality life, right? And so from studying those populations in the world, we know one of the things that all of those populations have in common is a very strong social connection to their community. And that's why community events like this are so important, because we can do everything we're supposed to do in the kitchen, everything we're supposed to do in the gym. But if we are not maintaining healthy relationships, then we're missing a huge piece of mental and physical health. The intimacy that you have with other humans in your life, whether it's, your parents, your children, your friends, your neighbor, right? Your local grocer, all of that has a huge impact, believe it or not, on your immunity, on your mental health, on your cortisol levels in your body. And so it is just as important to work on your relationships and pour into them and ensure they're thriving, as it is to eat plants, as it is to exercise, as it is to drink water. And we know, a lot of us know that personally, when you think about if you have a small rift or something with someone in your life and how that can disrupt your energy and disrupt your mood, especially if, it's someone that's really close to you. And God forbid it goes on for an extended period of time where you're not talking to someone, you have tension for someone for multiple days, weeks, or sometimes years, right? That really causes has a physical impact on the body and the brain, because the thoughts that we think and the emotions that we feel manifest in the body on a cellular level. So it's important that we work on our relationships as much as we work on all other aspects of health. And that includes the relationship with self, right? A lot of times we have a very unhealthy relationship with our self-worth, our self-value, body dysmorphia, how we see ourselves and our self-esteem, right? Sometimes we have a lot of unresolved trauma or grief, feelings of inadequacy or jealousy. So it's important that we're working out those feelings in that relationship with ourselves, in the proper settings and therapeutic settings, or whatever that may look like, in mindfulness settings and, spiritual growth settings. Working through all of that is going to be just as important as eating right.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And, like that, I just need to snap my fingers right there to that, like, the relationship with self and that sense of, connecting to how you feel about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so Janetta actually has a question here. Janetta, you can go ahead and unmute and ask the question about vegan and plant-based foods.
I just wanted to kind of know what are the different types, some of the types of vegan and plant-based foods. What, can I, do I have to buy them like at a specialty store or what?
Great question. No, absolutely not. So what it means to be plant-based or to have a diet that's free of animal products means that you're consuming fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those you can get anywhere, right?
Anywhere, okay.
A bag of beans anywhere. You can get, kale and spinach and turnip greens anywhere. So it's about, eliminating animal products as much as possible.
Okay.
Any grocer sells, some form of dairy-free products. So you absolutely don't necessarily have to go out of your way to shop in a specialty store. Many of our local chain stores will sell things like this. So making a pot of beans and rice or greens or pasta that's with the sauce and the vegetables without the meat, right?
Okay.
So you can get those ingredients anywhere, making a big vegetable soup or a chili, right? So though a bean chili or black bean burger. So all of this is available to you. And now the good thing, in Metro Detroit is that because, we're springtime and sun is coming out, a lot of our farmers markets are starting to come back to life. So going down to something like the Easter market, or I'm sure you guys might have a local farmers market in the Harper Woods area, would be helpful as well to shop and get locally sourced produce as much as possible. Because if it's grown locally, if it's grown in Michigan or from a local farmer, it's going to be more cost effective and guaranteed to be fresh. So you definitely, that would be a specialty out, as I would say, you might have to get is doing a local farmers market.
Okay.
But other than that, no, you don't have to just shop at one or two stores. You can find those things most anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, Lauren, looks like you have a question.
As well. Just to kind of piggyback on that, what is it about meat-based proteins that are like inherently bad? Like why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah, for sure. So number one, the mammals meat are mammals, and they create many of the same substances that our human bodies create, right? So an example of that is going to be cholesterol. Their liver creates cholesterol like ours. They also produce something called IGF-1, insulin growth-like factor 1, which is a growth hormone like we do. And so consuming the animals, even if it's labeled as like organic or grass-fed or whatever it may be, it's not that something has been added to it that makes it bad. It's that you're eating another mammal that's producing these substances, and you're now getting too much cholesterol. You're now getting too much IGF-1. You're now getting a ton of saturated fat because you're eating the muscles and the tissue of another mammal, and so it clogs our arteries naturally. So it's not about anything that's added. It's the animal in and of itself that lends to heart disease and high blood pressure because of the saturated fat, the IGF-1, the cholesterol, the excess mucus that it creates in the body. When we eat dairy, for example, especially if we're eating it at extreme high amounts, cheese, butter, yogurt, constantly, milk products, sour cream, all of these things, coffee creamer, it creates excess mucus in the body, and mucus is the #1 carrier of disease in the body. And so that's essentially, does that make sense, Laura? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I was unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've had friends that have done vegetarian and vegan diets before, and I guess I'd never really thought to be like, okay, but why these proteins? Because I can understand if I'm eating ice cream and like fried chicken, like foods that are inherently like just soaked in all these things that I know in my head are like, that's bad news. But just the alternative of like, like, okay, if I do move to like plant-based stuff, like actually why? And that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. So thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. And I think that's a really good question, because we know the fried chicken, okay, it's deep fried. We know the ice cream because of the sugar, but like at the foundation of it, like what's wrong with a grilled skinless chicken breast? What's wrong with, I totally get it. Absolutely. Like what's wrong with a plain Greek yogurt? It's literally the mucus it creates in the body and the saturated fat that's naturally present. And then, and so even if we are shopping and buying the animal products, and we're not thinking we're doing a better job by buying organic or something, then you also have the additives to consider, right? The things that like salt water is injected in a lot of chicken to increase the volume, right? And so that raises blood pressure when we consume it. And so you have a lot of additives, and then you have just the animal products that's inherently clogs our arteries and raises our blood pressure, especially when it comes to things like type 2 diabetes. Eating animal products, the issue, most people think it's carbs and sugar, but the issue with type 2 diabetes is actually saturated fat, because that's what's in the blood that's blocking the sugar from getting out of the blood and into the cells. So, animal products have been shown for many years to be, the leading cause of some of the most common chronic diseases that people disproportionately suffer from.
Thank you. Thank you for shedding that insight. And I think that whole like, mammals that, you're consuming, and they already are producing things that, you naturally produce, is one aspect that I think we forget, that could possibly be, just something that causes more problems. But last question, if anyone else, I know Patrice and a few of you have joined in, so feel free to, ask our last question of Lisa. And as we kind of wind things down for the community health aspect with regard to nutrition and, overall like eating and diet and exercise.
I'm just a huge fan of Lisa. I try to support her whenever I can. She is amazing. Her brain and her body and her ability to help us, it's blessed to have her, still willing to help and educate us. So I'm just listening.
Thanks, Patrice.
We have a question in here. And Shanda, do you want to ask the question, or do you want me to read it for you?
I can ask. Let me go back to the chat so I can read it fully. I was just wondering, like, where do you recommend starting if someone is thinking of becoming plant-based so that it isn't overwhelming? And like, what are foods that you would suggest to be a good source of protein so that you're not hungry when you're switching? Because when I'm thinking, like, I've tried to do all vegetables, and sometimes either I feel like I'm overloading on them or I'm still hungry. So what are some suggestions, and where do you recommend starting at?
Yeah. So I recommend starting number one with the elimination of processed food. So you don't have to necessarily remove all animal products overnight. The caveat to that is if you're battling a chronic condition. People who have certain chronic health challenges, like if I'm working with students and clients that may have just been diagnosed with cancer, or they have type 2 diabetes and their A1C is off the charts or something like that, then that may require more of a cold turkey approach. But for people who may have the luxury of kind of baby stepping it, I would recommend, number one, eliminating processed foods as much as possible. This is important because the foundation of a whole food plant-based diet are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and nuts and seeds. And what happens when people are used to eating conveniently packaged foods, takeout foods a lot, processed foods, is that when they transition over to being more plant-based, they do the same thing. They rely on processed vegan food to try and carry them over because they haven't developed a habit or the palate for whole, real food and the natural taste of food. So the first thing I would say is, even if you're still eating animal products, how can you begin to unprocess your diet? Processed foods are things that, come in a bag, a can, a box, are frozen. How can you switch from all of the canned vegetables and frozen vegetables and start getting acclimated to buying fresh broccoli, fresh spinach, and things like that? So begin to unprocess your diet. The very first animal product that I recommend everyone starts eliminating first is all dairy. So start by eliminating all dairy. That is, yogurt, butter, cheese, ice cream, coffee cream, or sour cream. Begin to eliminate the dairy because that is typically one of the biggest culprits of excess mucus, of acne, of bloating. If a woman is still having her menstrual cycle, severe cramping and bleeding during that time of the month because of the excess hormones. And so I would definitely recommend starting with dairy first. So you're going to unprocess your diet. So you're eating foods as whole as possible. Or if you're dining out, you're eating foods that are made fresh. So it's not a matter of you have to cook everything to be successful here. I don't want you to think that, because there's a way you can dine out and still be healthy. But you want to start like, is this processed? Does this have added preservatives? Does this have added food dyes? Does this have added sweeteners and things that give it a shelf life? Or was this made from scratch? So that's what you want to start, because it can take a minute to transition your palate. Even though your taste buds only have a lifespan of about 10 to 14 days, a lot of times it's very difficult for people to go from super oily, salty, processed food that they're used to eating whole, real foods. And so they believe food doesn't have a taste, it's bland, it's boring. So we need to start transitioning your palate. So dairy first, hydration at the same time. So getting your water up, making sure you're drinking half of your healthy body weight in ounces of water per day is really, really important. Half of your healthy body weight in ounces of water per day. So hydration, go completely dairy free. And then when it comes to like meat and seafood, we want to start trickling down. So first, make sure nothing is fried, right? Like, let's get as much saturated fat out of the diet as possible, because a whole food plant-based diet is the one diet that's been proven to prevent and reverse heart disease. So let's start getting those oils out of the diet. We don't want to be dipping saturated fat into more fat and frying it up. So let's get rid of the fried foods first. And then let's start getting rid of the poultry. And just to be clear, chicken and turkey is not healthier than pork and beef. They're equally as bad. They equally raise your blood pressure, equally clog your arteries, equally, increase your markers for cancer. And so getting rid of the poultry and the meat. Some people like to become pescatarians next, where they're just eating seafood. Seafood is super high in cholesterol, can have a super high toxic load. But some people, when you're doing the work, you got rid of dairy, then you get rid of meat and poultry, then you go to seafood. That's usually the steps that people take. And again, if you have any pre-existing conditions, your journey may need to look a little different. If you have an autoimmune disease or even dealing with depression and anxiety, your journey may need to be a little more aggressive to start putting those things in remission. And then I think, Shanda, you said something about protein really quickly, because I know we got to wrap up for the next speaker. But so on a whole food plant-based diet, what you have to understand is all protein comes from plants. When you eat animals, you're just eating recycled plant protein. You don't need animals for protein. So what happens is, like, the protein that you're going to get, let's say in a chickpea or a black bean, is going to be a much higher quality than the protein you're going to get from an egg or a chicken. And that's important to note, because protein isn't protein, just like a calorie isn't a calorie. They're not created equally, because if you get protein from an animal, it's causing your body to be acidic, it's causing your body to create more mucus, and it has growth hormones attached to it. But if you get protein from plant-based sources, like, oatmeal and quinoa, then you're not acidic, you don't have excess mucus. And so really, you probably have been led to believe that you're going to have a protein deficiency when you don't eat meat, which is 100% false, because again, all protein comes from plants. So when you eliminate the animal, you're just eliminating the middleman and going straight to the source. So it's very easy to get adequate amounts of protein. On average, for a woman, she only needs about 56 grams a day to have adequate amounts. And so you will not have to worry about a protein deficiency on a whole food plant-based diet.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. And we definitely learned a lot. And I have notes here, so making sure that, to even start off with little things. I know that a lot of people may think, taking on a whole food plant-based diet is going to be very daunting, but really, when you think about it, it's hydration. It's making sure that you're eliminating dairy, because you see that there's actually a rise in the plant-based milks. Every grocery store now has things like oat milk. They now have, soy milk and, different types of flax milk. And so the plant-based milks are definitely, there's a huge market for them right now. And then other dairy alternatives, and, so just kind of finding those. And then the third thing is SOS, which is salt, oil, and sugar. And just really eliminating those out of the diet can really help with that inflammation. And, all of those aspects of, just kind of contributing to your health. And Lauren did say here, if you're hungry, you're probably actually thirsty. So make sure you have your water, and don't drink out of plastic containers. But Lisa, where can people find you? And tell us a little bit before you leave about your farm to table course and other offerings that you have, so that people can learn how to kind of take this on head on and have you to be their guide through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just dropped both my websites in the chats, guys. Both my websites in the chat. You can learn more about me at my website, lisaangelsmith.com, lisaangelsmith.com. My free membership community, where I host a complimentary plant-based class live every first Saturday of the month, is called the Black Health Academy. So that's the blackhealthacademy.com. That's also in the chat. I go live on Facebook and Instagram quite often teaching this content. And so I'm at Lisa Angel Smith on Facebook and Instagram as well. So you can join there to follow me. And I have a signature program that Ernestine graduated from, called Farm to Table, which I teach a few times a year. I'm teaching the spring semester right now. The next one will be offered in the fall of 2021. And on my website, lisaangelsmith.com, is where you can join the wait list. It is an application-based program, and it's a 10-week intensive where I teach you and escort you into living a more whole food plant-based lifestyle, so that way you have the accountability, you can get all your questions answered and get a better understanding of nutrition science and other aspects of health that are critical for longevity. So lisaangelsmith.com is where you can do all of that, and then even access some of my free talks and most recent lectures.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Big round of applause there to Lisa. Thank you so much for joining.
Guys.
Yeah, you are awesome and you're an inspiration. And I love, just kind of learning so much from you. So thank you for being a part of this Harper Woods Community Health Forum.
Of course. Thanks, Ernie.
All right. Bye. Okay, and so our next speaker who is going to join us, and you guys make sure you follow Lisa out there on all of her social medias, check out her website. Like she said, she offers a free workshop around the first of the month. And you can join that and then learn more about all aspects of nutrition, and then health and fitness. So and then her story is very inspirational too. So without further ado, I am going to welcome Eric Wilkins, and I'm going to, hello, how are you, sir? I'm going to
Pretty good, and you?
Good, doing great. Okay, we have more folks here joining, and welcome to everybody who was able to join. Feel free to ask questions in the chat if there are any questions that you have for Lisa, and we can feel free to, have those get answered. And without further ado, so Eric Wilkins, master's at LMSW-Clinical, is a social work psychotherapist and currently working for H3 downtown Detroit. He also has his own private practice in Huntington Woods and in intersectional insight, and works part-time with a Radical Wellbeing Center in Southfield. He formerly provided psychotherapeutic care at the American Indian Health and Family Services in Southwest Detroit and Transformational Choices in Plymouth. He created a master's in social work from Wayne State University School of Social Work, Wayne State alumni, me too. And he is ordained as a Dharma teacher at Still Point Zen Buddhist Temple, where he facilitates a 9-month on one sangha. One Sangha training. Wow, you're gonna have to tell us more about that. And spiritual support program. Having expertise with meditations, he applies mindfulness overview in working with clients through individual therapy sessions. So as we transition from physical health and talking about being mentally healthy, as I said, this is May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I just want to introduce Eric. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then I definitely want to know more about One Sangha.
One Sangha.
Yes. So tell us about yourself here at the Harper Woods Community Health Forum.
Okay, hello everyone. As you mentioned already, I was invited to participate in this gathering because I work at H3 downtown Detroit. I was invited to work there, and I took the job already having my private practice because I'm very interested in being a part of the Detroit mental health care community. I returned from California. I lived out there for a couple of decades, and I returned in about 2011 to be closer to my family. My mother's getting older, get married, and return to college so I could get a degree in mental health care. It turned out to be in social work. I remember a young man, it was one of my classmates, had a very serious look on his face, and he said to me, I'm just really worried about being able to get a job after we finish this degree. And for some reason, what popped in my mind was, and I told him this, I said, I really don't think that's going to be a problem. I think what's going to be a problem is you deciding which job you can accept, because there's a lot of demand out there. And this was before COVID. So now here we are, a year in. I remember when it first hit around this time in March, I figured I'd just be out of work because we had to shut down because of the guidelines for just a couple of weeks. And now here we are, it's been a whole year. And in this year, people have been through a lot. I see clients individually not couples or groups, but just individually one-on-one. And I'm finding a lot of people are coping with the impact of this event. There's been a remarkable increase in substance abuse, uh, people feeling isolated. And if people were suffering from other problems, either mild or serious, they've been intensified because of the situation. I can imagine that the economic stress for some people, worrying about your home, having a roof over your head, feeding your family, all of those things just, even if you're in a good position, a person might be thinking, what if I'm next? That sort of thing. So I find that I guess I arrived at the right time to provide these services to my community, because I do call Detroit my hometown. Let me just come out of the Zoom from found something that I wanted to kind of read to you. I found this.
Did you need to share your screen, or because I can
I'll
make?
just read it. I'll just read it.
Okay.
It's from the National Institute of Mental Health, April 9th this year. It's just a kind of a summary. I'm just going to read one paragraph out of it. I can send it to you, later if you'd like. It reads, and this is from the director. His name is Joshua A. Gordon, PhD. And he says in this editorial, I guess you'd say, it seems that much of what we have learned from past disasters and epidemics is holding true in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. Several surveys, including those collected by the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, have shown substantial increases in self-reported behavioral health symptoms. According to one CDC report, which surveyed adults across the US in late June of 2020, 31% of responders reported symptoms of anxiety or depression. 13 reported having started or increased substance use. 26% reported stress-related symptoms, and 11% reported having serious thoughts of suicide in the past 30 days. These numbers are nearly double the rates we would have expected before the pandemic. As in prior studies, this survey showed that risk factors for reporting anxiety symptoms or suicidal ideation included food insufficiency, financial concerns, and loneliness. So I think that kind of that paragraph kind of summarizes where we are right now. And it's also interesting to me, Ms. Lyons, when we were talking on the phone earlier, you mentioned something about when people start going back to work, how that's going to have an impact on them as well. I was thinking about the very same thing this morning before you called me. So I think mental health services are critical, especially nowadays. I think some of the things that the community needs to, or maybe individuals as well, need to kind of realize is this is not the time to hang on to the stigma of mental health treatment or people who have mental health concerns. It's time for us to support those who need support. And I'm also saying this to individuals who kind of hold back thinking that that's for somebody else to do. I think if you're losing your interest in things that you usually do, or you're using substances or alcohol too much, or it's difficult to get out of bed, it might be time to talk to somebody. I've created a list of resources that I will send to you, Ms. Lyons, that you could share with people. It's got a few names on it. Let me see if I'll just name a couple of the names on the resource. Let's see.
Thank you so much for that too, because you walked in right as our last speaker also had mentioned social connections and how important those are, and to not only to lose those during this pandemic, can be detrimental, especially to like children and, also seniors, to be impacted by that loss of sense of normalcy from getting together with your social network. But then also now that fear and anxiety around a return. I know that I have a little bit of, apprehension around, the aspect of walking into a place now. They say the CDC is saying that you can walk into somewhere without a mask if you're fully vaccinated. And, it's still like, it was such a whirlwind, of how much trepidation do people actually have around that. And I think that's something that, definitely has some degree of, having to talk to yourself around. So yes, this is definitely important.
Yeah, so as I was saying, this list that I'm going to send to you, should you want it, I just had a few links here. The Detroit Wayne Mental Health Authority, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There's a couple of links on here to finding a therapist in your area, Team Wellness, Smart Recovery, which is for addiction. And of course, we have the 211 number, which can connect people to various services.
Thank you. Those are definitely great resources. And you mentioned the Detroit Wayne Integrated Health. I know that they were a part of a sort of podcast that I had for the community to talk about, some of those resources as well. But I kind of wanted to, ask a few questions, and then I'll open it up for any questions that people may have here. You can just kind of feel free to reach out and ask, unmute yourself. But, so with regard to, just a rise in depression and anxiety, how can we combat, just some of the mental hangups that, have kind of gone with that loss of those connections, and then trying to, balance so much in a Zoom world where many of us have had our kids, learning from home. And then so we're also maybe, aspects of taking care of family members, because the home, sometimes going to work can be a respite from all of the aspects of like having to balance so much. So what have the statistics been looking like as far as people kind of really needing these services more, and what do you anticipate will be, the future of kind of returning to, transitioning out of that new normal and back into the old ways? Like, how do you anticipate mentally we will adapt to going back to the way things were?
Well, I don't have any numbers for you, but I'm thinking uh, it will be a shock to many people. Some people are already returning to work on a part-time basis. Other people have not been in the office for a year. So just like it was a major adjustment to stop working in the office and work from home, I think when we transition back to the office, we should um, kind of realize that that's a possibility for us as well. Um, so under these conditions, right now, you mentioned kind of being prepared. Under these conditions, I kind of think mental health is kind of like physical health. If a person is able, it's important to take care of oneself now before things get worse. So I think a lot of times we think we're too busy to take care of ourselves so that we can stay healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy. But I think especially during this, that we need to be preventative. For me, what that means is trying to watch my nutrition, watch what I eat, getting to bed at a time that allows me to get sufficient rest. Um, in the mornings, I like to practice meditation before I start my day, and then go for a run in the local park and come home and work out with some hand weights. So this physical exercise for me, especially people who are, I guess you could say, first responders or caregivers. I kind of sound like a broken record, but I try to tell people, especially them, that self-care is not a luxury, it is critical. It's critical for a person to take care of themselves so they can be available to the community and to their families and their friends as a support. But if a person does not, trying to run around and adapt to what's going on right now and juggle everything, teaching from home, a person might find themselves kind of burnt out, and then it's more work to recover.
Thank you for that insight. Any questions from the audience for Eric before I ask one question about a little bit more about the one sangha sangha
There you
training,
go.
the 9-month training that happens, and you know like Zen Buddhism and all of that.
I just have a quick question or a quick comment also. Going for a walk helps too. And I also meditate using YouTube. I go to Abide or 10-minute Christian meditation. That has helped. Although people have been sad during this COVID time, for some people, to me, I've been actually better off, and I hate to say that, and that's just the thing. Some people are sad, and some people are, you know, I've done more money. I've paid off a lot of bills, and it's just mentally kind of like, oh, am I supposed to feel sad? Because some people, you know, I feel sad for people that have passed on and things like that, but for me to be able to, you know, pay off my bills and me to be able to save money and me to still be able to eat, and some people don't have that. It's just a mind thing of like, well, you're supposed to be like everybody else because everybody else is not happy. You know what I'm saying? So if he could speak on that, the being sad, but your life is still being okay. And how do you kind of merge those two worlds together? You know, I guess.
I guess I really don't have too much to say about that. It's understandable. I can appreciate what you're saying, is what I'm saying. I guess it depends on how a person looks at it. In the beginning, when this kind of started and it looked like it was going to be around for a little while, and it didn't look like it was going to go good for a lot of people, I was kind of in the same boat that you're talking about, as far as I suddenly found myself being able to continue my job because I'm working virtual. I just turn on my computer. But there's other things going on out there which are distressing. As you said, there's another way of looking at these things. For me, besides dealing with people's problems or circumstances negatively impacted, it was a time for introspection, a time that a person could kind of use this as kind of a sort of retreat away from the commute, away from the office, where a person can kind of use their time at home to kind of do some things that they normally told themselves they did not have the time for, such as reading or meditation or playing an instrument, those sorts of things. So I guess it depends on a person's circumstances and the degree of negative impact that they are experiencing.
I kind of have a thought to tag on to that. So I have watched my friends variously, you know, kind of go through their struggles. My best friend has been working from home with 2 toddlers, bless her heart. But also, unfortunately, we've known of people who have taken their lives this year. We know 2 people who have done that. And I want to be able to support, you know, my family members, my extended family, my friends, but it's hard to know how to be a resource for them. And then on top of that, like, I have friends who are people of color, and this has been a very challenging, my best friends are Chinese. So like that's challenging for them as well, just because of, you know, the source of the pandemic and, you know, Asian hate and all of that. So do you sort of have thoughts about how to be a good source of emotional support to other people in your circle while taking care of yourself?
I'm sorry, what was that question again? How do you take care of yourself while taking care of others?
Or just thoughts about how you can reach out to others at this time to be a source of support.
Are you talking about in just circumstances in general?
Or I mean, during the pandemic, my friends are all over the country and we're distanced anyway because of COVID. So it's hard to kind of be an emotional support for folks.
Well, I can understand you feeling that it's hard, but I think one of the most important parts of being a caring person for others is letting them know that I'm available for you and I'm listening to you now as you speak. I'm here present for you when you want to talk. Should you ever want to stay in touch with me in the future, you've got my number. And then just contacting people on a regular basis as what fits your schedule and theirs as far as staying in touch. As we kind of talked about a little earlier, isolation has been had a big impact on people. I've met people who, turn to substances a lot heavier because of the isolation. So I think just letting people know that you're available and that you care is a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, all right. Thank you all for your questions, and thank you, Eric, for your perspective and the resources and just knowledge. And then I think the last thing is I really need to know more about this, just sort of meditation and the one sangha training.
Um, when I returned to Detroit, I had kind of started a meditation practice out west. So when I returned to Detroit, I wanted to find a place or a community where I could continue to practice meditation. That's important to me to be a part of a meditation community. I looked around. I found Still Point Zen Buddhist Temple near Wayne State University. Started attending regularly. The next thing I know, I'm in the seminary program. At the same time, I was taking classes at Wayne State University, and I was ordained in 2015 as a Dharma teacher there, one of several Dharma teachers there. So at some point, I think later on that year, same year, our guiding teacher, Coho Vincenilla, who's also a therapist, he asked me to facilitate the program that he used to handle, but he has so much on his plate. So I just said, okay, I'll do it. It's a 9-month program for those people wishing to to deepen their practice of Zen Buddhist meditation. So what they do is we meet monthly to discuss a reading and how their practice is going. They're assigned a daily practice, Monday through Friday sort of thing. There's some homework about the reading. And when we meet monthly, we kind of have a little check-in, and I, offer a few suggestions. Goes on for 9 months. Those people who complete it, the entire 9 months, because it sounds a lot easier on paper than it is in practice, get to graduate in July. So in a couple of months, I guess next month is my final meeting of the 9-month period. And then in July, there's a special ceremony to kind of congratulate them for taking the time to deepen their practice, because it works two ways. It works to help them strengthen their ability to practice on a regular basis and understand the practice. And then in so doing, they also give back to the community by being knowledgeable and improved practitioners, I guess you'd say.
Oh, that really sounds amazing. And I feel like that really contributes to, you just have such a serene presence. And, I really want to thank you for, kind of enlightening us. I just feel like calm being around you. And I think that kind of contributes to that, because mindfulness and meditation, I think, is just an underestimated skill set. It's an underestimated thing to do to bring yourself that sense of clarity. And even to Lauren's question of that feeling like you want to help people, you really do have to pour into your own self and find that sense of, certainty and calm. And, I feel like you really have, just kind of brought that sense of, calmness and knowledge and, just serenity here to this workshop today. And so thank you so much for sharing your resources and all of the information. And so Eric Wilkins, thank you.
I just want to say two things, if you don't mind, before I let you go.
Sure.
Or you let me go, I should say. One is I'm going to be sending you that resource with the links on it. So if anybody wants it, they can just get it from you. A lot of things, information is already known to the public anyway. The other thing is I mentioned to you that with my clients, I bring in mindfulness element in our sessions and in some of the problems that they have too. But what I wanted to emphasize before you let me go is that when I bring mindfulness to my clients, I try to make it very clear to them that I'm not trying to convince them to become Buddhists. What I'm doing is taking the meditation piece out of the Buddhist context. It can be practiced by anybody living any faith, or for those who are not interested in any sort of religious practice themselves. So I just kind of want to make that distinction, because if anybody's interested in practicing mindfulness with a therapist or in any fashion, it does not mean that a person necessarily has to, shave their head and put on some robes.
Right. And thank you for that, because I don't know, I felt like I've always, been interested in just kind of the spiritual aspect of healing, because there's a lot of research out there that talks about the connection between, just kind of finding that sort of clarity and, also, healing, and just kind of really exploring some of these things. And, I think there can be a separation, but then there's also science that, kind of influences, how people really feel about the self, and how much control they actually have over things. So thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much for the invitation. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other aspects of anything that anybody wanted to throw out there, or before we say goodbye to Eric Wilkins?
I could just say, Ernestine, the Family Center of Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods has a list of providers. Hope, the company that Eric works for, H3, is listed on there. So if anybody's looking for a therapist or looking for some other resources, and the resources that Eric mentioned, especially Detroit Wayne, is listed on there too. But I put the familycenterweb.org in there. So glad I finally got to meet you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yourself available tonight. So
I appreciate the email you sent me letting me know you were going to let me through the door.
good. We'll let you through the door a whole lot more.
Awesome. Well, I want to share one last thing before we go, and that is a short clip from NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Health. So I'm just going to share that really quickly, and then we will kind of have our closing remarks, and bid you all adieu, and wish that you all just kind of take care of your health, because a healthy community is a wealthy community. And this is something that I'm passionate about as a councilwoman, making sure that we know where our community resources are to be able to do things like staying healthy, walking in parks, knowing that there's a walking club, knowing that there are mental health resources, knowing that there are folks out there like Lisa Smith who, if you're curious about how your nutrition should look, what is a plant-based whole food diet, what does it mean to be vegan, what does meditation do for you? So I want to be able to be that resource if people in the community here in Harper Woods and beyond ever have questions about any of those aspects. Feel free to reach out to me. But I will close with this as I share my screen here.
It's okay to think you're in a toxic relationship with the world right now.
It's okay to feel like your world is changing.
It's okay if it's hard to find the words to express how you feel.
It's okay to feel like you just want to become someone else.
It's okay if you're panicking over an inability to control your life right now.
It's okay to have trouble maintaining your normal routine while staying home.
It's okay if you're feeling more cynical than usual.
It's okay if you want to curse more than you usually do.
It's okay to wear your favorite tank top several days in a row.
It's okay to miss your job.
It's okay to just stay quiet.
It's okay to be depressed.
It's okay to talk to your cats like they understand what you're saying.
It's okay not to feel the most fabulous right now.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Okay, gonna go ahead and stop there. And I think that it's definitely something that kind of has reflected, you know, what we've gone through in the pandemic. But you know, with recent things that have come out, you know, as far as the CDC,
Yeah, I'm not saying it was
you
up.
know, what's going on here. I think that it's really it's telling that our world is coming out on the other side, and I think it's going to make us more resilient and it's going to make us stronger. The fact that we were able to, you know, not only survive, but you know, I really want for us to thrive, and you know, we're all in this together, and we have managed to come out, you know, better people, better humans, and now we're more conscious of not only the environment, but our own selves and our sense of self-care and how much we really pour into ourselves. And I want us to continue to do that. And I want us to hold each other accountable. So, you know, those are my closing remarks. And thank you all for attending the Harper Woods Community Health Forum. And thank you to all of my wonderful speakers. Thank you to Mary Jo for not only helping me get connected to folks to speak to some of these things and make you, thank you to Eric, thank you to Lisa, and thank you to all of you who attended and to who, I hope you all learned something. And, you know, I'll have those resources available for you with the link to this listed. And, you know, thank you so much for attending this workshop. And it has been wonderful. So thank you. And once again, I'm Ernestine Lyons, Councilwoman here in the city of Harper Woods. Thank you guys for being a part of the Harper Woods Community Health Forum, and have a great night. Be safe and healthy. And if you are interested in getting involved in Harper Woods, there will be community cleanup efforts this Saturday at 8 a.m. We're meeting on Kelly Road at 20010 Kelly Road to, you know, do a little bit of community health and cleanup efforts to make sure that our neighborhoods stay beautiful, in addition to our health and our mental health and wellness. You know, we want to make sure that the city stays beautiful and healthy. So thank you once again, and have a great night, everybody.